Hello YouTube, this is Archsimmusic with a building video for the lot that I created for James's Aluna Island. I'm actually trying to think of what the lot's called. Sunrise 15 or something like that. It's so horrible. Anyway, it's going to be in print words on this video. So, yep, I'm building this lot for James's Aluna Island world. It's a really cute little world, so I had to do something for it. And this is what I came up with. So I'm doing a split level house where the entry and the garage are actually like ground level and the rest of it's above ground level, like half story, halfway up. And I really like the way it turned out. I think it's turned out really nice. And you'll see it unfold in this video. So it actually took a tremendous amount of time to complete this house, even though it's not really that big, because of the split leveling. So there's a lot of constrained floor elevation. It was an exercise in constrained floor elevation, and we don't always see eye to eye, me and constrained floor, but we got it done. So it was a challenge, but it was fun. It was cool. Yeah, so right now, really just working on that split level. Got that first level down, and now moving into getting that upper level, kind of working on that. It's a pretty open floor concept, like I mentioned in the description. The roof was fun. It was a really good time. Yeah, me and roofs, we don't see eye to eye, like, ever. But I did kind of create this carport, which is actually small. I didn't realize how big the lot was until later on in this video when I go to add, like, a backyard area. And I was like, OMG, this lot is really deep. Like, it's not wide, it's really thin, but it's a super long. So I could have moved the house back and had, like, a proper carport. But I was like, no, after, like, if it wasn't split leveling, I probably would have done it. But yeah, after I got this far, I was like, oh no, that's not gonna happen. So yeah, just working away here, working on the roof, trying to get that sorted out. I ended up switching it to like the thatch roof, like the pale thatch roof. Because again, it's, supposed to be island, it's an island feeling, an island type of design, so I didn't want to relate to that, but it didn't look right, so I ended up changing that later. Excuse me. So at this point, figuring out when I want to put the stairs up to the upper floors, and again with split leveling, there's a couple other things to consider when you're designing that area. Trying to place a bathroom for the 2 rooms to share, and I realized, like, after I put this in here, I realized I was like, well, there's no way to get to that back room issue. So changed it. And that's pretty much how it works out, and I gotta figure out how to get to the master suite, so that changes later too. So there's a lot of kind of figuring stuff out later. Actually, the initial design, because I knew that I was designing it for James's Aluna Island, so I was like, okay, well, I don't want my video to be monstrously long, but I do want to do something, kind of unique and creative and interesting. But I ended up, like, totally forgetting what I was going to say. Oh, no, that's horrible. Yeah, I know that I wanted to do something different, so I sketched it out before I started. That was what I was going to say. Yeah, I ended up actually sketching it out on a piece of computer paper just the like kind of concept or idea, which ended up starting out with that entry level where like the split, I'm like, oh, I want us to do a split level because I want it to be something, you know, kind of unique, kind of different. And I was like, well, what if the split level was in the entry instead of like in a living room area that's just dropped down? I was like, ooh, I'm creative. Not so much. So that's what I ended up doing. Having the front be the split level in the garage, and then having these big, huge glass windows looking into the garage. And that's kind of where I started. And I was thinking about my materials. Like, I know I want it to be warm, like bricks and woods, because again, it's like that island type of feel to it, which you'll see me go to later. But yeah, that's kind of where I started. So I'm still working on the roof. Roofs were always challenging. So I was going to put like a pitched roof on that front area, but I was like, no. When I initially had the vision for this lot, it was a brick, like a brick block kind of separating the rest of the house, which was pretty much stucco and wood. So that's what it ends up being. Yeah, it took me a little minute to get this roof where I wanted it to be. But I think it turned out to look pretty nice, pretty cool. It is a real mix of modern design, meaning like the flat roofs and stone and things like that, with like what I would consider like a traditional design with pitched roofs. So it was kind of an interesting little blend that I think, you know, was pretty successful. Well, really successful because I really like it. Yep, still going on. Wrapping up the roof here. So I'm about to add in the windows and doors, and I couldn't really remember how to do it in the split level, so I had to take a moment and look that up because it's just been a while since I had to do it. Because again, typically my entry isn't the split level, it's other areas. But yeah, I ended up figuring it out, and now I'm going in and adding all the doors and windows. Well, most of the doors and windows. At least I'm about to do that somewhere in here. I don't flip-flop and know what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I'm adding the front door and the windows and stuff, so that takes me a minute. Anyway, so while that's working, and we're seeing that unfold, yeah, that's why it just took me so long. I think I actually showed me doing some windows, and then I cut it and moved on, because with the split leveling, you have to, you know, remove and then place it and then flatten it out on all the levels, and it just time consuming, and I was like, well, who wants to really watch that? So I cut it out. But yeah, so my world, I'm still working on my world. It's coming along really, really well, and I'll probably, because that's a word, I'll probably be uploading a video within the next couple days for my world, so that can continue progressing on, even though I took a moment to kind of build this neat lot in James's world. I am still working on my world, and it's coming along really well. I thought this ended up working out really cool, because even with the split leveling, the wood, because it's vertical, looks normal. So I was like, oh, snap, that worked out to be really good. Couldn't have planned it better. So again, these are my textures that I decided on. So like this golden stucco color, a really light wood, and then kind of a warm stone. And I think it looks really good, and it matches well with the island-like environment. I do plan on doing a couple other lots in this world because this world is really cute and there's lots of really kind of creative moments to have. I wanted to do something in the city center and a starter home too. But that's to come in the next couple weeks or whatever. So this is the master suite. Just kind of shaping that out and adding more windows, adding windows to this drop down bedroom, which I thought was neat to use section in that way, where it's like a drop down area for this bedroom. Makes it a little bit more interesting, and it has kind of its own little balcony area, which is neat. But it does kind of present some issues later. Another thing with split leveling that's kind of irritating, and maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, which is possible, is the lighting. So even though the floors are open to each other, they still don't share lighting when you put a window in there, and that's weird and irritating. And if I'm missing something, please let me know how to find it, whatever I'm missing, if there's a way to correct that. Like, I ended up just putting lights in those areas later on, but it's weird that they're dark, but they're still sharing, like, windows. I don't know. I ended up adding a little extra roof just because the height difference, it just looked weird. So I was like, this side's like, because the garage is super low and the other side's really high, and it just looked weird. So I was like, okay, let me just see. Now I felt like that kind of evened it out a little bit, at least looking elevation wise. It just looks like it belongs. This is me changing the roof to this dark brown instead. I feel like it just looked better because of the size of my house, and I thought that roof looked weird because of the size of my house. So I'm kind of sketching out the backyard area, or the big huge balcony water thing. I don't know what to call it. I know I wanted a really nice sized pool back there. I wanted a pool house because I realized, like I said earlier, how incredibly large this lot was, like how far back it went. So I was like, well, I can't do nothing back there, so let me do something kind of cool. So I have this ginormous pool and a beach house that I work on detail a little bit later. I shaped that out. Then I wanted a place for them to like put their boats and stuff. So I ended up kind of creating this lowered area, and I realized that I had to do constraint for elevations again, and I cried a little bit. But ended up making this pretty cool deck area back there for them to put their water vehicles, which worked out really nicely, I think. Bam. Yeah, the guest house, I was like, or the pool house, whichever you say. I'm not really entirely sure I understand what the difference is, but this little guest pool house thing out here, I'm working on that, and I did want it to be, of course, interesting in the way and related to the regular house, because the regular house was pretty intricate, but I didn't want any split leveling over here. So I was like, okay, how can I achieve this? But I think it turned out really nice. It's a really kind of a cute little addition, I think. The roofs are always fun. They're always exciting pieces. Well, that's pretty much what it looks like, and I just add the materials on. I actually finished adding the windows at a later point that I don't show in this video just because, like I said, it just took me quite some time to complete. So I just moved on. So this is me working on the exterior area, like the backyard or whatever you want to call it. I know I wanted a hot tub in there. So this is me kind of working on that. I want like a little trellis area. I end up adding like plants to it later, which you'll see in the final images. And I wanted this to be like a fountain. And I was like, wow, it's going to look really cool when the water's running. But there wasn't enough space back there to pass through, so I scooched it. This is me scooching. It takes a little second to scooch, but anyway. I think that was a neat little element. And then when I add the plants, with the heather on the trellises, it looks really, really cool. And it really just completes that exterior area. It's really colorful, and it looks really tropical. Excuse me for clearing my throat obnoxiously. Yep, so working on this balcony area and a little bit on the exterior some more. Adding railings and stuff. Getting a little bit more detailed. I mean, at this point I was actually kind of tired, to be perfectly honest with you. But I was like, no, I can't stop. I have to finish it. I have to get it done. So much pressure. It does end up looking really nice. I hope I'm talking loud enough. I'm sorry if I'm not. I do that sometimes. It's irritating to me as well. I'm sorry. Yep. So I'm off in the front now. I know I wanted a fountain out front, so I'm just adding some details. And I made this little lagoon area, which looks really nice. And I had like stones and stuff. It just looks really kind of cool. So it's like this little lagoon area that when you're in the pool, you can kind of look out to it. And back to the front to do landscaping. I usually save landscaping until the very last for two reasons. First of all, because usually I'm working in a world that's bigger, and because Aluna Island like doesn't have that many lots on it, it just moves fast and loads fast and saves fast. But I usually save it for later because it kind of can slow down or lag your computer. So this was fun, adding these stones in there because it's on the split level. You can kind of smush it into the wall, and it just looks really detailed and nice and cool. So here I'm just quickly landscaping, and it looks really nice and colorful and tropical and pretty, at least in my opinion anyway. I don't know. So yep, about to go back to the back deck area and furnish that, if you will, or detail it, and add, you know, bar and a outdoor wood area and a place to grill and some seating and stuff like that. This is what I'm doing out there. I'm a back and forther. That's how I design. I don't know why. But I'm like, okay, big picture. Let's get this guy mapped out, and then I'll go in there and do some weird detailing and then go back to something else. I don't know. It feels like I'm scattered, but I'm not. It's just I get visions of things and they just make sense. And then sometimes there's gaps in my mind. Okay, it makes me sound kind of crazy. Man, kind of crazy, whatever. Yeah, and there's gaps sometimes, and I just come back to them and fill them in later. But so I'm back inside now, working on that sort of watered lower area. I don't even know what to call it. But yeah, I'm working on that. And I know that I want glass to cover it. Glass over things on the floor up above. End up putting a pond in here. Was gonna put a tree on the inside, but they were too big, so that didn't happen. Shortly, gonna move into the interior. Very shortly. Yep, so I'm adding those glass floors, which I got from the Into the Future, which that expansion pack is pretty bomb as far as like building goes. It does add a lot of really neat elements to the building world, or the building aspect of The Sims. Yep, so I'm in the interior, so the next 6 or 7 minutes is going to be me on the interior, at least the beginning stages. Now the interior it always takes way longer than the exterior, so I didn't show all of it. I just showed the big moves, I guess. So basically this downstairs area, which is really open. Everything is smiling at each other. But you really kind of get a feel of that area, which I really love the color scheme that ended up happening. So it's mostly light colors, and then introduce these splashes of colors, like the purple and the blue. The cool textures like the wood and the stone, and it just looks nice. Those change later. Yeah, that was weird. I didn't like it, but later on. I was looking at like ew, but I didn't know what to change it to, so I just was like, okay, I'll change it later. So here I'm adding in the seating for the living room. Want to introduce that purple again, and a cool like gray color, but then a splash of color in there with the blue and the purple. I thought that looked really nice and kind of mellow. Yeah, because the exterior is really warm, you know, golds and warm stones and wood and stuff, and the interior is pretty cool, pretty modern. I didn't know what to do over here at first, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll put a display, do a little unique display situation. And then I end up using this, which I really love this little display because it just looks cool. So it just turns into like a whole display area. So if your sim is a collector, they're going to love this area. Because again, lots of space to display stuff. Like if they collect gems, and that'll also increase the value of your house, FYI. But yeah, if they collect stuff, they're gonna like everything that I do right now, which is kind of cool. Just kind of a little level of detail there, which I do furnish, and the images after this is all complete, you'll be able to take a look at some images of everything all detailed out. And it looks very full, almost busy, like busy for me, because a lot of times my Sims they don't really collect stuff. But it's kind of a neat opportunity there. This is the entry, which turns out to look really cool. The house itself really isn't that big. Because of the split leveling, it just took a long time to do stuff. But it's not really that big of a house. It's only 3 bedrooms, a master and 2 extra bedrooms. Yeah, it's got a little guest house. Okay, it is kind of big, but it's not big. It's not like really, really big. Like, at least in my opinion, I've designed way bigger houses than this. True, it took a lot longer, but I guess that makes sense. Anyway, I'm babbling right now. I mean, I guess at this point I'm about to go in and start working on the bedrooms soon here. And at least adding color and textures and floorings and stuff. Which this room does, well, you actually see it on the video, but I add a closet right there against that wall, which of course being a split level, it couldn't be easy. It had to be exciting. Yep, just choosing color schemes really at this point. Yeah, I do a lot of things off camera because again it just takes so long. And that's the master bath. I got some pretty cool images of that coming up. It's the closet. Master closet. Which I put like folded clothes on them. So like I said, the details are added later. Like here I'm just adding a bed, really. Coloring it. But I go in and add more detail later. This is the balcony area for the master suite. Well, that was anyway. Yep. So we're about to move on into the still shots of the final design. So thanks for watching. Guys, have a great day.